Tony Ferguson back to sparring. He has sparred at least 120 rounds. Now, first off, I believe him. I believe him. Second off, I would have no way to play that same game. Like if he said to me, hey, Chael, how many rounds did you spar? I would have no way to answer that. I suppose I could get a calculator out. Suppose I did 3 to 5, and I did that every day, and every day to my standards is 5 days a week, and then how many weeks you did. I mean, I guess there would be a way, but I've told you guys, I used to train with Tony. We were teammates. So when that dude says 120 rounds, it's something different when he says it. Like, that could be 2 weeks of training. I have personally seen Tony, and Brendan Schaub, and Uriah Hall, and Kelvin Gastelum, just for some names, and Pat Cumming, and Ryan Parsons, and Mark Munoz, saw him as well. We would see him. Sean Strickland, do 10 rounds a day. So, I mean, on one hand, him saying, hey, I sparred 120 rounds. I'm getting a correction over here from my producer, Ethan. He's telling me it's 140 rounds. Either way, before you correct me in the comment section, guys, Tony hasn't sparred in many, many years. And I believe that as well. When Tony was out there all of a sudden, Tony never used as an excuse. As a matter of fact, even in defeat, Tony felt he was performing well, and he felt as though he was performing well in large part because he wasn't sparring. So it's been very difficult. It's been a long and difficult road, and it wasn't just conversations. It wasn't just outcomes. It wasn't just fatigue that finally got him here. But it does make me think. And I spent a lot of time thinking about training my whole life. But usually that was just trusting and giving myself to the coach. Whether that was Coach Pittman or that was Clayton Hires. It was whatever they thought, I then also thought. But it was a matter of me having to show up and put the work in. But as I've gotten older, I have seen some things that defy the belief system that I had. I mean, for example, Francis Ngannou going 30 minutes with Tyson Fury. One judge believing he won. So can we at least call it competitive? Francis Ngannou goes a competitive half hour with Tyson Fury. Conor McGregor going a competitive half hour with Floyd Mayweather. Like, that would defy everything that I believe to be true. So, while it's not a situation of Conor didn't do any sparring or Francis didn't do any sparring, in comparative it is, sure. I mean, a grain of salt goes into a swimming pool. Are we going to say that swimming pool has salt in it? Right, I mean, it depends who you ask. Some would say, yes, it does. It has a grain of salt. And others go, no, there's not a measurable amount. Okay, great. If we know that it's comparative, Francis Ngannou, coming off a bum knee, trying to get a fight against Tyson Fury. From the time that contract comes around to that knee is healed, if he would have, and I mean Francis Ngannou sparred every single day prior to that fight, in comparison to what Tyson Fury had sparred his entire life, the comparison would be very equal to a grain of salt in a swimming pool. So if we understand that that's not what did it and that's not what overly mattered, you do wonder, how did you get in shape? Because I haven't seen it. I had a run. I'll assert myself here, but when I'm doing a lot of thinking about this, I will remember this moment. I had a run, and I had it with my friend Lindsay, and my friend Lindsay did, not triathlon, marathons, 28 miles. She did marathons. She did multiple marathons. When she wasn't doing a marathon, which she did 2 and 3 times a year for many years, she was training for a marathon, which is running. So we did a run, and I led it. We're at my house. Hey, follow me. I'll get your workout. Now, this entire run was only about 14 to 16 minutes. And that is going to be very, very easy for somebody that runs 28 miles. Can we agree? Well, the difference was there was a lot of hills in my run. There's even at one point where you got to gain elevation, and there's a staircase, good for about 80 steps. And the entire thing, while being forgiving at times and while leveling out at times, but also spiking at times, the entire thing was different than the runs she was used to. Even though she ran every day, she ran flat every single day. And when she did the marathons, it was flat. And she's the one that explained this to me when we got back from where we started and she got done throwing up. she explained to me how difficult that was. I thought, I don't understand. You run every day. But it was a lesson. This is from when I was 22 years old, but I've taken it with me, realizing, no, you don't. Assimilation is not the same thing. It'll get you close, and it'll get you as close as you can. And that's the right thing for supplemental time. And there's certain things that are so hard on your body, the supplemental time is much better than doing the actual event. I think it's one of the reasons that the commissions and the promotions allow fighters to fight 3 times a year. And some of the better fighters that fight longer than that, more of a boxing example in MMA, they fight twice a year. I think some of that has to do with that recovery. But when I'm listening to Tony, is this good news or is this bad news? I love the idea that Tony's sparring. I love the idea that he's sharing that with us. I don't see anything bad come from sparring. Nothing. You will meet people in life, in the world of sport, that will tell you to work smarter, not harder. Don't bet on those people. Those are losers. Those are losers. And we're surrounded by them. Believe me, as things get going tough, you get a guy that comes in and says, hey, I can get you further by doing less. Boy, you want to captivate, where do I write the check? It is not possible, and it does not happen. You've got to work. You'll hear about overtraining, and that is a thing. Scientifically speaking, it is the thing. You've never done it, and you've also never met anybody that's done it. It is, in theory, a thing. You can scientifically get a girl in the same hot tub pregnant, even if she's on the other side of the hot tub. Like you can, but you don't know anyone that has, and you've never met the kid that came, and that's how, right? You can. So you can overtrain, but you don't know anybody that has. I got to make that really clear. So now you come back to working hard, and you come back to doing the sparring, you come back to doing the very thing that you're set for to go out there and do. And Tony Ferguson, who is a cardio machine, I will tell you, I've never said it before publicly, but I will now. I've seen him get tired. Blasphemy to say about the great Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson lost his fight to Justin Gaethje, and not just because he got hit in the face repeatedly. He got tired. And it comes back to my run with my friend Lindsay. No matter how hard you work, it does not matter how hard you work. You can work 5 times harder. But if it's not the thing in question, it's meaningfully different. So a well-trained, a spar-trained Tony Ferguson. I'd like more info, guys. I'd like to know who his sparring partners were. I'd like to know what gym he did that at. I'd like to know who the coach was. I'm not convinced that he didn't go do 10 and 12 and 15 rounds a day in a row, and that he's grinding himself down. And none of this is to give Tony a hard time. I'm a supporter of Tony. I watch Tony, but I follow Tony. There's things to study and take from Tony, most of which are good. But you're trying to learn from the good and the bad. And it's also important to identify the things that you're going to put in the bad column so that you can learn for the next crew. I used to be a fighter. Now I'm a coach. So I got to study this from all angles. I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to update you after the fight. Let's see how those 120 rounds of sparring, let's see how they serve Tony Ferguson.